We're live.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm so glad that you guys are here and able to join us this evening for this special Facebook Live, the High School Toolbox. Tonight we have several speakers coming to you to talk to you about high school topics and things that just, we feel like are important to share with you guys, and would like to give you guys some tips, some tools, some encouragement tonight. So tonight we have Hal Melanie Young, we have Ann Elliott, and we have three of our mentors from our high school mentoring program. We'll have Adrienne Brown, Jill Shelton, and Susan McCord. Before we really get going with this, I just wanted to let you know that we will be able to answer questions that you put into the comments. So any questions you have, put them in there. We will have some time for Q&A after each person speaks for a little while. And so that'll be a time for us to interact. And other than that, I just want you to sit back, relax, make sure you have something to drink, make sure you have a notebook to take fabulous notes, and just be, ready to interact in that comment box. For the first comment that I want to see is, as we're getting started with this Facebook Live, is how did you find out about this tonight? Was that through one of the emails that HEAV sent? Did you see it shared on the Facebook group of HEAV? Did somebody else forward you the information? So in your comment box, go ahead and let us know how you found out about that tonight. The second question I would like to ask to just be able to see who's out there and what we're doing is, how old are your kids? How many kids do you have, and how old are your kids? How many high schoolers do you have, or are you just getting ready to embark on that? And then third, I wanted to just let you know that tonight, with what we're doing throughout the evening, every now and then you're going to see a website link pop up. And that's an opportunity for those of you who are attending tonight to be able to enter to win the homeschool planner that we have. And it's an e-planner that you will have immediate access to if you win that prize. But you don't have to leave the Facebook Live to go and do it. You'll have plenty of time. You'll have until tomorrow to go ahead and register to win that. But I just wanted to put that out there, because when we're having some breaks throughout the evening, we'll make sure and put that up so that you have the link to do that. All right. As you guys know, HEAV has been equipping and encouraging homeschoolers while protecting their freedoms for over 40 years. And this Facebook Live is just one of those ways that we're trying to support homeschoolers, especially high school homeschoolers in the community. Our first speakers tonight are going to be Hal Melanie Young. And Hal and Melanie do a lot with HEAV. We don't know, we couldn't do a thing like this without them, because they are just so full of life, full of love for the homeschool community, and just have so much encouragement, support, and experience. They're award-winning authors of Raising Real Men, No Longer Little, Love, Honor, and Virtue, and many, many more things. And they are the parents of six grown boys and two grown girls, and they live very happily in North Carolina. They're going to be speaking to us tonight on what to expect as you enter the high school years, responsibility and relationship changes. And they have had a lot of experience with that, lots of fabulous tips for us. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and spotlight them and let them, well, I was going to spotlight them, but Maureen, can you spotlight them? There we go. Thank you.
Hi. All right.
Ready for us?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm Hal.
And I'm Melanie.
And as Amy was saying, we have 8 kids, and we have been around this track more than once now. We've got 6 that have graduated and gone on to college. We still have 2 at home.
One's a senior this year, so I'm going through the big part of high school right now. And so we've done this a few times, and we want to share with you what to expect in high school. So Hal, can you get us our slides up?
Yeah,
honey?
let me get those up. I'm gonna share this screen here. Y'all stand by.
All right.
Yep, right here.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, come on, let's share that.
All right, great.
Okay, here we go. So we're just going to be talking. This is going to be a rush through. So just hang on tight, and we'll tell you where to get more information toward the end. So let's talk a little bit. One of the things people are so concerned about: how am I going to teach algebra? What am I going to teach high school level courses?
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember when our oldest was getting ready for high school, I was panicked about the hard courses and doing a transcript. But transcript takes about 2 hours max. And the hard courses, you get the book and you work through it and you get help if you need it. Right. That's really not the hard part of homeschooling high school.
The real challenge we found is the last 4 or 5 years those kids are at home with you is the relationship that you're building and the character that you're encouraging them to develop.
Absolutely.
That's what you're going to really appreciate when the time comes for them to move on.
The problem is our culture's no help right now. Who is it from the University of Virginia?
Yeah, the Allens, Claudia and I forgot his first name. Anyway,
the Allens from the University of Virginia.
Two psychologists at the University of Virginia that work with adolescents have said that really 25 is the new 15. That what is considered acceptable behavior for 25-year-olds now used to be expected of mid-teenagers. The whole culture has kind of delayed the entry of adulthood, and the generation that we're dealing with now, our high school students are Gen Z, the Zoomers.
And Gen Z has got some real issues going on. They're meeting the milestones of adulthood years later than previous generations. They're known as the most fearful generation.
Yeah, researchers say they are the generation that, unlike all the previous generations that come at this time period with optimism and hope, and they're looking forward to be adults, the generation of our high school students is fearful. They're scared to be adults.
And mental illness is absolutely epidemic. Over half of all parents of high schoolers say their child has a mental illness condition. And, that's never been true in history. In fact, the numbers are really scary for how many kids believe they have a condition. It's up around 3/4 of them. Social anxiety has become the norm. They're afraid to pick up the phone and talk to people on the phone.
These things, they say, you know what? You can actually have conversations on these gadgets. Did you know that? You can talk to people in real life. Our kids don't want to.
And over 70% are completely hopeless about the future.
Right.
Now, we're thinking, not our kids. We're different. And I hope we are. But sometimes we tend to have a different kind of low expectations.
Well, we look back at our own mistakes when we were teenagers and we were stupid and did dumb things. And we think, I don't want my kids to repeat my mistake. And I tell our kids, look, make your own mistakes. Don't repeat mine. That's wasted time. But we can try to clamp down on them to prevent them from making the mistakes we did as children. And in fact, we may be hampering their development into young adults.
Well, sometimes we just expect too little of them. We don't realize how much they're capable of. And we need to learn to trust God to lead our kids like he led us. He saved us. He led us to where we are. We need to trust him to lead our kids too.
It's funny. The Holy Spirit will speak to people under the age of 18 as well. Did you know that?
So what we need is a transformation in our parenting. What to expect in the teen years? Expect for you to grow a lot. I've grown so much through our kids' teen years. And we're the ones, they don't know what to expect. They don't know the changes that are happening. They need us to lead them. They need us to be ready to change. So let's talk a minute about biblical young adulthood.
Well, here's the thing, that we look at adulthood or the transition from childhood into adulthood, and we put this long period of adolescence in between them. And the fact is, scriptures don't show that. The scriptures seem to show there's two categories, really. There's childhood and there's adulthood. And the Apostle Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 13 that when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I reasoned as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. He doesn't say, and then I became a teenager and we played stupid games in the back of the synagogue. He didn't say that. He said, I was a child and I put away childish things to become a man.
Now, there is a period in scripture called youth. And that is from around 12 or 13 till about 30. And that's a time when they're adults, but they're young adults and they still need training. And you see kind of the extremes of that period when you look at David and Goliath.
Because you see there in 1 Samuel 17, Goliath is described as he was a man of war from his youth. So when he was a young adult, he was already a warrior. David is also a youth, but people are looking down on David because he's not big and muscular like Goliath was. And so you can have a whole range from being very callow young people to being quite adult young people and still be called, scripturally speaking, youth. Okay. So it's not like a specific age, it's more like a developmental time in the transition. And we got to remember that Paul told his young disciple Timothy, let no one despise your youthfulness, but
rather in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity.
Show yourself an example of those who believe. And Paul is writing to this young church planting pastor in a pagan community. He is out there doing missionary work on his own, and yet he's still young enough that people may say, you're too young to be doing this. You're youthful still. Okay. So we need to recognize that biblically speaking, our young people are young adults. They need training, they need discipleship, but they're no longer little kids. And we have to embrace that ourselves.
There's something different. And this is the time period when we move from the benevolent dictator that our 11-year-olds need because they've got no sense, to the trusted advisor that our 19 and 20-year-olds need because they need somebody they can come to with all their problems and difficulties and trust you to give them good advice.
Now, this is not a magical thing that goes with the number of candles on a birthday cake. It's not something that you say, well, you're 18, you graduate from high school, get out of the house.
In fact, if you do, that's going to be disastrous.
But rather, you know what? It's a developmental process. And so we find that when our young people reach those years, and you can tell when they start to reach those years, then you begin to transition into how you will treat them when they are truly independent adults one day. Not all at one time, not all after a birthday, but rather to say, month by month, year by year, you are growing in your treatment of them as also adults.
So we've got to be planning for the changes that are coming. And the best way to do that is to think about the finish line. Think about, what do I want to have accomplished in my relationship with this child by the time they leave my home?
Well, you see, that's why we chose the title for our first book, Raising Real Men, because there's lots of books about raising successful teenagers. I'm not raising teenagers. I'm raising young men and young women. And I want them, when they leave our home, to be able to stand on their own feet with the Lord's guidance and to live as independent adults.
Well, that means we need to be intentional. We need to be thinking, what do I want them to know about spiritual matters? What do I want them to know about educationally? What do I want them to know about managing a home, managing finances? And we need to be very intentional because the clock is ticking.
Now, one thing that we found was very helpful, and this is totally a matter of expedition. Okay. It's just something that you do because it's expedient, but we found it was really helpful to have a coming of age ceremony when our kids reach the early ages of adolescence.
Yeah, somewhere 11 to 14.
Somewhere in there, whatever's convenient for your family, to say, okay, here's our marker in the sand. We're going to raise our Ebenezer here and say, from this point forward, you get to sit at the grown-up table. Okay. From this time forward, we're going to consider you a young adult. You're not independent yet. Don't push too hard, but we're going to treat you like an adult in training, not like one of the kids to be managed. Okay. And so having a ceremony of some sort is good for communicating that to your young man or your young woman, but also to remind us and the rest of the family, hey, this is no longer one of the little kids anymore.
That's right. Teaching responsibility. This is a big change of these years because you will be amazed at how much your young adults can do and how much they can manage. It has absolutely flattened me to see what they're capable of. But you've got to give them the freedom and the opportunity to show that responsibility. You can't just expect it to happen while you're still doing everything.
Well, it's also important that they get the encouragement. But you know what?
I remember how at a Mother's Day banquet at my mom's church,
right?
Mom and I are sitting there, and there's a woman and her high school senior sitting across from us, and we're just talking about our families. And the lady said, "Well, what did your kids do for dinner?" Now, y'all, at this time, I had like 4 teenage kids at home. And I said, I don't know. They made something. And the girl just got this shocked look on her face. And she said, I wouldn't know how to go about making a whole meal. Y'all, her mama failed. That child was about to leave home like in a couple of months.
Right.
And she didn't know how to make a whole meal. What in the world? So you have to be intentional about teaching this stuff.
Now, one of the things I found really useful is to look at the example in Scripture. How did Jesus train his disciples? How were the disciples discipled, if you will? And what you saw was Jesus went out he gathered his disciples around him, and he went out and he did what needed to be done. He was about his Father's business. And then he would come back to him and say, do you understand what I was saying? Do you see what I was doing? Well, after that, then they come alongside and they helped him do his Father's business. And then as they grew in their abilities and God gifted them with abilities, then Jesus was able to step back and send them out and say, here, now you go do it and come back and tell me how it went. And you see, that's kind of the transition that we've tried to do with our young people,
Well,
to say,
that's what my mom did with me.
right.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got an apartment, she basically found me an apartment with me watching her.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time she had me make phone calls and she was telling me what to do, to set up the utilities and all the different pieces of setting up an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And by the next time I was ready to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do take every task of adulthood and you walk through this method, your kids will be able to do it, and they'll be able to do it with confidence.
Okay. And so, where does it begin that they start doing real grown-up? Well, you know what?
Right now.
A lot of grown-up life is just routine chores, isn't it? I mean, somebody's got to cook, somebody's got to do the laundry, somebody's got to walk the dog. These are things that if the kids don't do it, the grown-up's going to have to do it. And so you give young people chores. We saw a survey some years ago. They said that only 28% of American families have their children doing anything at home, any kind of chore.
What in the world?
Taking out the trash.
Well, that explains a lot why you can't get decent help anymore.
Well, it does.
It's ridiculous because teens are capable of doing adult tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, if you give them adult tasks a little bit harder than they think they can manage,
mm-hmm.
they will rise to the occasion and they will ask you for help and they'll accomplish it in themselves. And so I find myself, as our kids move into these years, asking myself all the time, can they do this themselves?
And if they can't, what do they need to know, or what do they need experience with in order to do it themselves?
And that may be making an appointment with a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
It might be managing the meals or managing the laundry. It
mm-hmm.
might be managing their own schoolwork for a time.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, can they do this themselves? And if they can, they probably should.
One thing to remember about that too, before we go on, is just to recognize that you want to give them an opportunity to try it when the challenge is manageable and the consequences aren't life-changing.
Yes.
You want that, just like that little toddler learning to walk, you want them to fall down on the carpet where you can pick them up and say, see, you're okay. And that's the problem when you just kick them out of the nest at 18 or at 20 or something. If they haven't had the opportunity to practice, they may fall hard. So give them the opportunity while the consequences are manageable.
Oh, yeah. And this is especially true with school,
mm-hmm.
because when they go off to college, nobody's going to nag them to get it done on time. They're going to have to find that syllabus and figure out when things are done and take care of it. One of our sons is a college professor,
mm-hmm.
and he says he's been shocked at the number of kids that don't read the assignments. If they don't read the assignments, they're not going to pass the class.
Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit we talked about discipleship. Discipline and discipleship are from the same root word. They're meant to instruct us in righteousness. Okay. And so the way that we discipline our children changes when they are no longer children. It changes as they move into the adult years, where they still need training.
You know what? We know this.
Mm-hmm.
We know instinctively that you cannot discipline a 17-year-old like you can a 7-year-old.
But we can slip into it.
Oh, it's so easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy because, especially if you have a big family with a lot of kids, because you're disciplining all these kids like this. And then here's this one child, your oldest, that he has to be disciplined differently. And it's hard. But if you discipline
mm-hmm.
a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old like they were 7, you will humiliate them. And that will destroy your relationship. You just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, at 17, it's just a matter of months till they can walk away.
And folks, we've had people come up to us at conferences and things and ask, look, I'm having this conflict with my 17-year-old son or daughter, and we're fighting all the time. What can I do to buckle down and make them comply? I said, you know what? At 17, really, you are on the last stages of your relationship building. Okay. And when they walk out that door at 18, they can walk out and you can't make them come back. So you want to make sure you have a relationship that's built on an understood trust and love and respect between the both of you that will tie them to you when they leave.
Discipline is transitioning in the high school years from the directive with consequences to helping them, coaching them into making the right decisions themselves.
So, like, okay, they talk back to you, which they will. Sometimes they don't mean to. And, when they're little, sometimes there are immediate consequences to that sort of disrespect.
Meet me in the laundry room.
But when, with your older students, with your older kids, you kind of need to take them aside and say, look, I don't know if you meant that to sound the way it sounded. Let's talk about the way you said that, the way that I heard it, and maybe a different way that you could communicate that. Because one day, you know what? That professor doesn't love you as much as I do. Your boss will not love you as much as I do. Your wife or your boyfriend or whatever, they're not going to feel the same way about you that I do. And they may react in a way that you don't like. And so let's talk about how, if you have a conflict or if you're angry with somebody or you need to make some criticism, how to do it in a respectful manner that doesn't get your head knocked off.
For real. The danger of doubling down is that rules without relationship breed rebellion. If you have, it doesn't matter how many rules you have, if you have a bad relationship with your teens, they will break them to hurt you.
And really, we found that when you have a good relationship with your teens, you don't have to have a lot of rules.
You don't have many rules at all. In fact, people ask us all the time, what's your rule about this? What's your rule about that? And we don't have a rule because we haven't had to make one. Because if you have a good relationship with your teens, they will desire to please you and you won't need a lot of rules. In fact, one of the things I say in our home is I say, don't make me make a rule. If you act like a Christian adult, I'm good. No rules. No, fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you fail to control yourself, then I will control you and you won't like it.
Right.
And so don't make me make a rule. How does this work? I know you're dying to hear more. You need to join the mentoring program to hear more, because I want to talk about this some more. We're going to talk about this more next time we speak and in the mentoring program. So sign up for the mentoring program to hear more about how you can transition your discipline so that you don't need a lot of rules and your kids are choosing to do right. One thing we need to be doing during this time is aiming at spiritual maturity.
And, there's one of the things that we talked about with our, one of our kids came home from college and we were having family devotions. And at the end, he just chimed in and said, Mom, Dad, don't ever stop doing this. And we thought, and I think you told him. What'd you tell him?
I said, Sam, you never paid attention. I don't understand. And he said, well, I didn't think I was paying attention either, but it turns out the Lord's brought all this back as I've been in college. And I know it's harder. His schedule's complicated. We've got to really rush because we're running out of time.
Right.
But persistence is better than perfection. Doing a little bit day after day after day is better than having wonderful devotions and not doing it again until next month.
Well, and you know what, when it talks about in Deuteronomy chapter 6, when it talks about as you sit at the table, as you rise up, as you walk in the way, that's all day long. You need to be thinking about the word and applying the word to your life and talking about it to your kids day in and day out.
Now we're going to talk about that more when next time we speak to. We're going to talk about helping them to choose a church and apologetics and the other things you need to be doing.
Right.
Building relationship, because that's what's going to really matter when they leave your home, because relationship is what makes them want to obey you. Relationship is what makes them want to please you. Relationship is what makes them call home when they're out of your home. It's what makes them come home.
And if you find that they don't talk to you, a lot of times they've learned that you're not really listening to them. I mean, there's really and truly, let's be honest about it, we need to put this down. We need to set the phone down and make eye contact with that young person.
And we need to listen to what they're interested in if we want to hear what we're interested in.
Yeah. Minecraft? Yeah. Clothes? Yeah.
Whatever.
We do. But because the fact we're willing to listen to the little things means that eventually they start to open up about the big things.
We need to learn to praise our kids, and don't be that parent that's impossible to please. We need to say I love you without them saying but
wait for the other shoe to drop. No, authentic praise is praise that looks at that child and say, you know what, I'm really proud of blank. I'm proud that you were brave enough to step into there and defend your friend who was being bullied. I'm proud that you were courageous enough to read out loud when I know that's not easy for you.
That was great. The way you did wash the dishes without me asking, it really took a load off of me. Just find some reason to praise them because they're struggling, and the world will helpfully praise them all they want to if they will leave you,
Mm-hmm.
if they will turn their hearts away from you. And
Mm-hmm.
so don't make them seek for love elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
When our kids leave home, relationship and discipleship are all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Because without relationship, you don't have kids anymore when they leave your home. Relationships what makes them call home. Relationships what makes them come home.
Ultimately, I want them to have a good relationship with their parents and with their siblings, most importantly, with their God.
And so it's really easy to get freaked out about transcripts and courses and what am I going to do? But you know what? This is what's important. Freak out about maintaining a good relationship with your kids and discipling them all the way through high school, because when they leave home, that's what you'll care about. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, how do we release this?
Okay, let's see.
Thank you so much, Hal and Melanie, for sharing all of that wonderful information with us. Let's work on getting your screen back.
Yeah, I got you. A second. There we go.
There we are.
All
right.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. You guys that are watching us live, now is the time to have some Q&A with Hal and Melanie. We have about 5 minutes to do some Q&A. So go ahead and type in your questions in the chat box, or not in the chat box, but in the comments, and we will get those answered. One question that does keep coming up that's not for Hal and Melanie is whether you can come back and watch this stream later. It will stay on the page indefinitely. So you can come back to the HEAV Facebook page and find the streams there. So let's see. I have questions coming in. All right. So we have Julie Simpson Preston. She's asking, what age would you start the process of treating them in an adult manner or adult in training?
In our experience, 12, 13, they're seeing changes. They're starting to look like adults. Their bodies are changing. Their hearts are changing. The way they respond to things is different. Towards the end of the preteen years, really.
Yeah, honestly, that the transition begins with more of the emotional part. And, when you're looking around and you say, what has gotten into this kid? That's usually a sign that, yeah, they're moving out of the childhood mentality into the preteen years.
And your discipline needs to change then.
Right.
And the way you discipline and interact with them needs to change as they're coming into those hormonal years. And you'll know when they climb on the emotional roller coaster and invite you to join them.
And that's before they get the first whisker or when they get the figure or anything else. I mean, you don't see the external changes. You just see their behavior and their responses to everything seems to go haywire. That's a sign that, okay, it's time to start transitioning things.
But as they're sort of coming out of that stormy preteen years, that's a good time to move into giving them, more adult level expectations and responsibilities.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I see Heather Rowe has a question on how did you help guide your kids as they figured out what career or college paths to take? And our next speaker, Ann Elliott, is going to be talking about that some, but if you want to just feed a little bit into that, Hal and Melanie, we'd love to hear it.
With some kids, their skills, their talents are obvious. You just can't miss it. With other kids, they're talented at several different things. We brainstorm with them. We let's list all your talents and skills. Let's list all your interests. Now, let's talk about some things that combine a talent or skill and an interest and that people will pay you to do.
Yeah.
And just brainstorm a bunch of things and see what appeals to them. And and take that fear away from them and say, it's okay to change your mind. Hal and I
about everybody changes their mind sometime during their career.
Yeah.
It's not unusual.
At 40, Hal was an engineer and I was a housewife. Now we're authors and speakers. It's okay to do different things in the course of your life.
That's wonderful. We have Gabrielle Everett, who wants to know, did any of your kids do college courses during high school?
Because of our lifestyle, because we are on the road about 7 months out of the year. Doing dual enrollment has not been a possibility for us. So what our kids have done is do AP classes. And AP classes they can do at home, on the road, wherever, and then they take the AP exam and they get college credit. So yes, they've done college credit things, but not through dual enrollment, because that's just we're not home enough.
Yeah.
I would offer a caution about dual enrollment, that your child has to be not just ready academically, but ready socially and emotionally to be in that environment, particularly with community colleges, because it's often adult learners there. So they may be in a classroom with 30-year-old guys, with 35-year-old guys, and they need to be able to handle that.
I also recognize that any college courses have a transcript that follows you forever. So you do want to be sure that you have a child that's ready to stick that out. If they're going to go into a college classroom, realize that's going to be a permanent record somewhere. So they do want to be sure that they have the academic chops for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice. Let's see, we have another question. What should we be focusing on with a middle schooler? So not
survival.
High school. Yes. I love it.
Middle school is a train wreck. I'm sorry. They are going through so much emotional and hormonal changes that don't freak out if you look at your middle school and think, college, this kid's never going to be able to do high school. That's normal.
I tell you what, after raising some through that time period, I look back at my 5th grade teachers and think, these women were saints. How could you volunteer to do this? Yeah, it's a difficult time and that's, be encouraged.
Yeah.
Everybody's child goes nuts for 2 or 3 years there, and it's not your family dysfunction. It's a transitional stage, and their brains are mush and their emotions are a whirl, and they don't know which way is up.
Our book, No Longer Little, will help you with that if you need help with that. But seriously, do not freak out that you need to be preparing for high school and middle school. You need to just get through middle school.
Yeah.
And this is not a question, but Jennifer Butler says, no question, but boy, did I need to hear some of the things you said. So thank you so much for the encouragement and the support that you gave us tonight, Hal and Melanie. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn our attention over to Ann Elliott. Ann is a pastor's wife and mom to 7 kids, and 5 of whom have already graduated from high school. She lives in Michigan, where she homeschools, blogs, and writes curriculum for Foundations Press. She's passionate about using the Bible as her primary textbook for homeschooling and mentoring women in the Word. Ann, go ahead.
All right. Well, excuse everyone my throat tonight. I've just gotten over being sick, but we're gonna get through this. This happens in homeschooling too. You're trying to teach your kids and you lose your voice. But tonight we're going to discuss how to set a course for your students' future. And I'm going to concentrate mostly on their aptitudes, their interests, and their spiritual giftings. And how do you prepare them for life with these things? High school has a purpose, and a lot of people will say it's to prepare them for college. I think it's more than that. It's to prepare them, as Hal and Melanie just said, for adulthood, to be adults. We want them, yes, to be able to earn money and get a job so that they can, afford life. But we also want to teach them life skills. We want to teach them how to have good character. We want to teach them how to contribute their unique abilities to the world. Why did God create them? What is their life purpose? We want to help them be ready for marriage, for parenting, for having a house and how to mow the lawn, for how to achieve all the goals and dreams that the Father has placed on their unique heart. And you'll see that with each child individually. And yes, my name is Ann Elliott, and I am a K-12 homeschool curriculum developer, and also just a wife and a mom. I have 7 kids, and yes, 5 of them have graduated. So in fact, I've been kind of chuckling. Some of my high school students were listening to Hal and Melanie and kind of smiling at all the things that they said that were so true for them. I would really like to encourage you, if you haven't done this up to this point, to grab a piece of paper and a pencil, because I'm going to be giving you a lot of things. And I think you're going to want to write some of this down because I'm going to go super fast. So while you're grabbing those, I just want to tell you a little bit about my kids. Just give you a chance. You can still hear me while you're running to get your paper. My oldest son is 28, And he attended a local college after he graduated, and he's somewhat self-trained. He has become a computer programmer. He has advanced certifications in networking and Linux, and that's about as much as I know. Like right there, it's way over my head, and that's normal. Okay, moms, dads, I want you to hear me. Your kids can know way more about things than you ever will know. Like, what is Linux, anyways? Now, having said that, he has faced difficulties in his 20s. It is hard to find a job in this field. And right now, he's actually working at a nursery in landscaping. He's outside all the time instead of at a desk, which was a huge adjustment, and he loves it. So I don't know where the father's going to take him in the next few decades of his life. He also, as far as interests, he loves artwork and writing. So you can see these are not like you think of a computer programmer as a little geek, but he likes to do artwork. So, it doesn't always match how you think it's going to look. My 24-year-old daughter said, Mom, I don't want to go to college. She didn't even really want to finish high school. She loves to read. She loves to study, but she didn't want to be academic. She says, Mom, I just want to be a wife and a mom. Now, that hasn't happened yet for her, but she also works at a greenhouse. She grows plants. She's now moved up to be an assistant manager, and she grows plants out and buys the seeds and waters and figures out the flower arrangements for thousands of annuals. She also likes counseling and reading books about counseling, and she also likes artwork. I like to go to her apartment and see how she's decorated everything. She really likes interior design, and she's honestly liked interior design since she was like 5th grade. So you can see some of that coming out. She also helps me with my marketing because I don't have any abilities in artistic design or artwork. So, excuse me. My 23-year-old son said, Mom, I just want to go to community college. I want to be in the trades. It's a great time, Mom, to be in the trades. You can earn so much money, and I just like to work with my hands. I don't want to be stuck at a desk. He didn't want to be a computer programmer. So he went on to become an electrician, and last year he became a journeyman. So he's already finished that out. He was able to get scholarships to our local community college and to take an ACT to do well enough to get most of his college paid for. And he works now for a very small local company, and he's moved way up. Now he has apprentices under him. But he also just loves to research. Researching is probably one of his favorite things to do. He loves science. When I have a science question, I go to him. Now he has a wife, and he's going to be a dad. He likes to redo the house. So see what I mean? Your aptitudes, your interests, your spiritual gifts, they don't always follow in the same track, but the Father's molding us and making us to be what he wants us to be. My 21-year-old is home now for the winter break from college. She's attending a private college out of state, Grove City College. It's a great college, look it up. But she is a junior in college now. She's an RA because she loves to put her and invest into the girls on her dorm. It's a Christian college, and she is majoring in business analysis. I'm like, yes, because running a business ourselves, the business side of it is not my forte. So I'm like, awesome. Finally, we got a child that likes this. She hated math in high school. In fact, she's the only one of our children so far that I had to hire an outside tutor because I'm like, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to explain this to her. The tutor got through it. She graduated. We got her into a private college. I don't know how. And now she's minoring in programming and taking her 2nd semester of statistics coming up, which is super hard. She's interning in the summers with a local insurance company and does office administration. And she wants to start her own business and maybe become a publisher herself, which that's pretty awesome. We need more good books, especially in the homeschooling world. My 19-year-old is the last one that's graduated. She just graduated last summer. She has not started school yet. She starts this coming Monday, she's excited about that. She wants to be a certified midwife who does home births. So you can see very different from her older brothers and sisters in what she wants to do. Right now, she also works as a nanny, but in her spare time, likes to sew. She likes to write. She did the 1-year adventure novel, which is a great thing in high school, which gave her an opportunity to do summer camp with other homeschoolers over the summers and really develop as a high school student. So I have 2 more kids left at home. I have a 16-year-old who loves piano. She's thinking about learning bookkeeping as well. And I have a 14-year-old who still loves Minecraft, and he likes doing programming with Python and all those things. So the thing that's difficult about homeschooling is that I do not have all the same aptitudes, interests, and spiritual gifts as my children. I don't do Minecraft. I don't do any of those computer things. They say apples don't fall far from the tree, but I feel like, I don't know, I have 7 children and they've fallen in lots of directions that I did not expect. So how does this affect me as a homeschool mom? Well, first of all, it affects the classes that I'm going to so-called teach my children in high school. And this is, I think, where we get so intimidated. I think I cannot teach my son Python, or I can't teach my daughter advanced math when I'm not understanding why there's a mental break there and we don't speak the same language in math. It affects the relationships that our children form, the friendships with peers, but also with adults. We need to help them form good mentoring relationships, even outside of the family, but it can be difficult to find those. It affects the jobs that we get, help them get in the summertime. And it's difficult for teenagers, I feel, to get a job. It didn't used to be this hard, I don't think. We want to help them go into service projects or volunteering. It affects the field trips that we want to take. And field trips in high school aren't the same as they are. You don't just go down to your local apple orchard and see how cider's made. You're thinking, okay, what kind of a field trip could we take that would help them learn the career that they're going to go into? It affects what they do in their spare time. And let's face it, homeschool students sometimes have more spare time than a high school student in a public school that's involved in way too many activities. But sometimes when they don't know what to do with their spare time, we want to kind of encourage them into their aptitudes and their interests and their spiritual gifts. And most of all, I think it affects the discussions that we have as a family. To me, discussions as a family are the most precious thing about homeschooling and the thing I would not want to give up. And so a lot of time in high school is spent talking about the future. I remember a couple of years back, in fact, well, it's more than a couple of years because all my kids were still at home. And we were sitting under a tree in the backyard and we were having a discussion about their spiritual gifts. And they were asking me, what are those, Mom? And how does that work? And it was just a really, really special conversation. And, you can have conversations in the car or wherever, but don't ever lose the ability to have those conversations. So real quickly, I want to go through aptitudes, interests, and spiritual gifts and help you figure out some ways to help your kids know what theirs are so that they can get to know themselves better and figure out what could the Father be preparing me for. And like Hal said, you can change your mind. I changed my major in college 5 times. It's perfectly fine. It's expensive, but it's fine. So first of all, I brought a couple books with me, but I'm going to give you a link at the end. No strings attached. You don't have to sign up for an email list or anything, but on my website at foundationspress.com, I'm going to have a link for you so you can get some of these resources if you don't write down fast enough. But there are some different career aptitude tests that you can take. Now, what is an aptitude? A career aptitude is basically you're trying to think, what am I capable of doing? Or what could I be capable of doing if I just learned a few more skills along the way? So there are some simple tests. So middle schoolers and early high school, 9th, 10th grade, probably want to just take simple tests and really kind of just get to know all the possibilities that are out there. But by the time you get a high school student in, say, 11th or 12th grade, I really recommend a book. And mine is so dog-eared because it's been through quite a few kids. And this one is called Discover What You're Best At by Linda Gale, Gale. And this is a fantastic book. It's a 2.5-hour test. It feels a lot like taking an ACT or SAT test, except you as mom are going to grade it, or they can grade it themselves. They're going to take a test over 6 areas: business skills, clerical skills, logic, mechanical skills, numerical skills, and social skills. And it's really kind of a boring test, 2.5 hours of this. But we had so much fun. I brought some of the scores from some of our kids taking it in the last few years. Like my husband and I have taken it several times because we're like, maybe we've changed. And no, we haven't. We're the same. It's so fun to see. Like I found out I would make a great librarian, and my kids are like, yeah, Mom, we could have told you that. But it's so cool because when you're done with the test, in the very back of the book, it has a huge career directory. Now, the career directory that I have, the copy I have, and it's still available on Amazon and so on, was made in 2012. So it's 11 years old. I still found, I was looking through it this week and I'm like, yeah, it's still pretty appropriate. It helps my kids get into their careers, and I'm sure maybe in another few years they'll update it again. Another really great book to think about getting is called Durable Trades by Rory Groves. This is a Christian author, and this book just came out a few years ago. And what he does is he talks about trades that are consistent in any century in history. So we always need a midwife, for instance. And my daughter that wants to be a midwife was reading about it one of the first times in this book and thinking, wow, that's something I think I might like doing. And so he talks about, excuse me, he talks about some trades that you could do, but he also at the end of every section, and he has like hundreds in there, he has I'm going to lose my voice. He has lots of resources and things you could do. I'm going to take a pause. Excuse me, one moment. Okay, I'm going to get through this. So, I remember one time I lost my voice for a whole summer, and I used my app on my phone to try to talk to my kids. That was funny. But okay. Secondly, let's talk about our interests. Now, how are aptitudes and interests different from each other? Well, interests are things that you like to do. It's more your personality, and it kind of deals with the present. So one of the things I mentioned a minute ago is that my husband and I, as we've taken this aptitude test over the years, it stays the same. But my personality, it changes. My husband and I have been fascinated in the 30 years we've been married that like he has become more introverted. I've become more extroverted. I've become more interested in like keeping everything orderly. I never used to be like that. I used to be crazy. And so we need to help our children understand that they are dealing with the present right now. At a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, the things they're interested in are going to be a lot different when they're 46. And that's the way God made us. It's the way he intended us to be. One of the things is we can learn to be content at the stage that we are in. And this is something that we model to our children. We can model that, you know what, I'm going through this situation in my life and I'm content with where I'm at. But it is good to help learn about my interests and the interests of other people in my family, in our social group, in our church. Helps us understand how other people work, helps us learn how to get along with people that might have different interests and how to like talk to them and carry on a conversation and get to know a little bit about their family and their relationships and what matters to them. I know in marketing, one of the things that they teach us is to pay attention to what are the needs of the audience. And I think we need to teach our teenagers to pay attention to not only their own interests, but the interests of others. And how can the way God made them with their interests meet the needs of other people's interests? And that's a super important thing to teach our children. It's kind of gives you a vision for the future to say, you know what, I'm really introverted. So maybe I could do this skill because this is the way God made me. But in the meantime, I can learn to not be rude. I can learn to be kind and to reach out to other people. So I like talking about personalities with our children. I think this is so fun, but I want to emphasize not be selfish with this, that one of the reasons we learn about our personalities and our interests is, again, to think about others. So just keep that key thought in mind as I say the next couple things. There are a couple fun ways to learn about interests and personalities. And this is an old book. Wow, can you see that cover? I'm not sure how well you can see that out on Facebook, but this is called Spirit Controlled Temperament by Tim LaHaye. It's a classic. It was around in the 80s when I was in high school. And if you go look on Amazon today, the cover has been updated. It looks a lot better than this one. This one, again, is really dog-eared. I've had it for so long. But he goes through some simple personalities. And best thing of all is he talks about, you know, your personality may be to be really gruff, to get in the kitchen and say, everybody out of here. I'm doing it my way. Or you're all gone. I don't want your help because I can do it better myself. And that may be your interest in your personality. Maybe you're interested in baking, but other people need a casserole made. And so you have to learn again to what's the word, balance your personality and temper it. And that's where he gets the word temperament is as you come out, how can you be more self-controlled? How can you be more spirit-filled? And how can the Holy Spirit come into your life and take those rough edges off that we all have, every last one of us. Now, in the business world, in colleges, especially in colleges, I think you have other personality profiles such as the Myers-Briggs temperament type. Or it's Myers-Briggs type indicator, I think is MBTI. And you can go to 16personalities.com, and that's a free test. I'm not sure it's the most accurate, but it's fun. And you can have discussions. So again, the purpose of this is to discuss and to get to know yourself, get to know how you can help others. If you really want to spend some money, you could go to mbtionline.com and they'll gladly accept your money, but I'm not sure it's necessary at the high school level. The point, again, is just to get to know each other. Thirdly, let's talk about our spiritual gifts. So we have an aptitude, and this is what we're capable of doing. And we have our personality that puts our unique spin on it with our likes, the way that God made us to tick. And then we have our spiritual gifts. So what's the difference? Well, a spiritual gift, I believe, is the thing that only God can do through us. It's that touch, that supernatural touch that he puts on our life. And without his touch, we are nothing. And I think that's why the whole world has MBTI, but only as believers in him can we have a spiritual gift where the Holy Spirit can come in and work through us. Some examples of spiritual gifts would be Joseph, who had obviously amazing talents. Once you see him become a slave in Egypt, he immediately rises to the top each time. But then we hear in the book of Exodus that God was working supernaturally in his life and placing him supernaturally in just the right circumstances so that he could save his people. Moses would be another example. Moses's personality was to stutter and be afraid, but he did have amazing giftedness. He was raised in the house of Pharaoh, so that's amazing. But again, it was supernaturally designed that way. And I want you to teach your children that they were supernaturally placed in your home with you as the parent for a divine reason, foreordained from before creation. And once you get a grasp on that, you realize that, wow, the way I'm made is the way he intended me to be. Here's a guy in the Bible. I just think this is cool because you might not know this one. Like, it's not like Joseph or Moses. His name is Bezalel. And this is in the book of Exodus when they were building the tabernacle. And the Lord called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri. He was of the tribe of Judah, and he filled him with the Spirit of God. There's your spiritual gift. In wisdom and understanding and knowledge and all manner of workmanship to design artistic works and to work in gold and silver and bronze and cutting jewels and so on. So you can see some of his natural talents, his aptitudes, and his personality to be chosen and put in charge of designing the entire tabernacle. Obviously, he had giftedness, but spiritually, the Holy Spirit came upon him and gave him the supernatural touch that makes us like, well, who is it that says that? It's Vodi Bakum that says that we would become like intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's what he wants to do, is launch his children as intercontinental ballistic missiles. Amen, right? So how do we allow God to use us as tools? And what our spiritual gifts are about? To me, thinking about spiritual gifts means teaching our children to have humility, that this is all about him and giving him the glory and not about ourselves. And secondly, it's about having good character, using these high school years to develop godly character, dependability, initiative, creativity. We're made in the image of a creator. So that's a piece of character that we need to develop in ourselves. How about teamwork? How about learning to volunteer and serve those that cannot repay us? So one of the best things I think for teaching a teenager, a high school student, spiritual gifts, and this may not be what you're going to think of, but I would say read the book of Proverbs and read it often and learn how to have that godly character and how it looks in an everyday world. And it's best if you can discuss this. If you really want to learn more about spiritual gifts, one of my favorite ones is called SHAPE. And every single one of those letters in the word shape, it's an acrostic for something. I'm not sure I'm going to remember what they all are right now, but you can go to freeshapetest.com and they will walk you and your students through how to know what their spiritual gifting is. So that would be my top recommendation for that. So in conclusion, I just want to give you 5 action points that you can take home from this. First of all, I think the high school years are a time for prayer, and then listening to what the Father says in response to you asking him for wisdom. Solomon asked for wisdom, and God said, yes, I'll give you wisdom. I'm so pleased you asked. And in James 1:5, it says, if any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and he will give it to him. So we have the same promise that was given to Solomon. But I would recommend that you teach your children how to journal and write down the thoughts that the Holy Spirit impresses on their hearts about their future. So that's number 1, praying and then writing down what the Father says. Number 2, are you reading your Bible? How can you hear from the Father if you're not reading his word? It's not possible. So read your Bible, teach your 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17 and 18-year-old to read his Bible every single year, to read it through from cover to cover and then do it again, to make that firm habit for life. It will set their priorities and their values so that their mind is set on kingdom living and not on making lots of money. Okay. Number 3, test and find out. Just keep testing, whether you use a book like this or all kinds of free websites that help you find out what your aptitudes are. But test, ask questions. Definitely spend some time on that. It's not all about math and literature in high school. It's also about thinking about the future. So take the time in your school. If you have to schedule it, you know what? Every 3 weeks, we're going to take a day and we're going to just talk about careers. If that's possible, it would be a great idea. Number 4, though, make sure you have time to research. I think researching means going online and finding out what does someone in that career field make per year. That does matter. What kind of jobs or what kind of tasks would be given to that person in their job every day? What would it be like to do that job? Where would you learn how to do it? Do you have to go away? Can you do it from home? What does your child want to do? And number 5, and I think this one is really important, that is expand your circle, find mentors, build relationships with adults, make sure that your young adult can have relationships with other adults beyond just you, that they know how to communicate with other grown-ups and to develop those deep relationships. And some of those places where the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, or it feels like the apple went way out in left field, you can find other mentors. I would suggest going to your church first and foremost. You're going to share values. And at your church, if you can't find anyone who wants to be what your child wants to be, then at least announce it and see if they know of somebody that they would recommend. That would be my first place to start. So again, if you'd like to get all of those links and books and everything just put in one spot, no strings attached, you can go to foundationspress.com/careers. So that's foundationspress.com/careers. And I hope that helps you out. Don't hesitate to ask any questions that you might have.
Okay, let me bring myself back up here. All right. Anne, if you want to take a minute to go ahead and get yourself a drink of water before we start the Q&A session.
Sounds good.
Yes, that would be great. And let's see,
The hot tea is the best thing, I tell you what.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, you guys can go ahead and start putting your questions in the comments. But Anne, I wanted to tell you that you have been getting some kudos over here. Ann Miller said that aptitude testing has been invaluable with their 8 now grown and married children. And of course, you've been a trooper with your throat going, and I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. Sorry, I didn't jump in sooner to give you a break to get some water. I should have done that. And let's see. We don't have any questions yet, but go ahead, guys, if you want to start putting in your questions. In the meantime, I had mentioned previously that we were going to be doing a giveaway of the homeschool planner. And so there should be coming up in the comments a link for that. I tried to put it earlier, but I think I mistyped it. So my tech team is better at that than I am. And so they'll make sure that it gets into the comments for you guys to be able to go to that link later and register to win. All right. And Anne, I really loved that you were sharing about the spiritual gifts versus the personality and how, it's all given to us by God, but there's, just they are two very unique things. So thanks for sharing about that. All right. Mary Lucio Missouri says, thank you so much. So much to digest. And let's see. All right, if you're out there live and you have a question for Anne, go ahead and type it in the comment box. And as that pops up, I will ask you. Gabrielle Everett said, thank you for all of the resources. Those were great. And Heather wants to know, she's not sure if she missed it, but is there a specific aptitude test that you think is really helpful? And I believe that was that first book, right? Oh, hold on, Anne. Let me unmute you.
How's that? Is
There you
that a
go.
little better?
There you
Yes,
go.
this is Discover What You're Best At by Linda Gale. I was just going to say, I got this book for $10, so this is not an expensive option. In fact, I think it's one of the cheapest things I talked about tonight. So, without that, there are some other little quizzes and things, especially if your children are younger, because that's a pretty serious test. It's a 2.5-hour test. You can go to my website at foundationspress.com, and there are some really simple ones to just get the ball rolling, and just like some interview questions you can think to ask your kids, do you like this better or do you like that better? And that is free. So that I wonder if I should get that link to you guys, but it's just at foundationspress.com.
Okay. And we have Anne asking, what do you think about the love languages?
I think they're awesome as far as helping families get along together. I know my husband and I use them very much with each other. We are about as night and day different as we can be, which might explain why we have all the apples falling everywhere. But I think that's super important for building relationships like Hal and Melanie were talking about earlier. I think that as parents, us getting to know our children's love languages and speaking those languages helps us communicate better to them, saturating their life with love before we drill them with all the instructions. Sometimes that's really helpful. As far as aptitudes and getting a career someday, I don't know. It would definitely fall in the personality section, the interests, and helping you meet the needs of others. But I don't know that it would help you choose which college to go to, or what you might want to do for a career. So,
right. Okay. Jesse Peters wanted to know, what was the name of the Tim LaHaye book that you referenced?
yeah, it is. I don't know why I couldn't see it from this like 30 or 40-year-old book. It's called Spirit Controlled Temperament. So Spirit Controlled Temperament by Tim LaHaye.
And just have time for a couple more questions here. One thing I do want to point out is right now in the comment section, the HEAB has the link for the planner. So it will expire sometime tomorrow, so don't delay in signing up for that. Let's see. Ann Miller just wants to point out that the ASVAB is a free aptitude test. Gabrielle Everett wants to know, what is your opinion of dual enrollment versus AP classes?
I think it just depends on the child, and it depends on your situation. I can think of situations where it would be a really bad idea and situations where it would be a good idea. I'm going to tell you my own preference, but this is me with my personality and my spiritual giftings. I just love having discussions with my kids about history and science and literature and all of these subjects. I would probably keep them and want to have them and say, you can take college later because I only get you for this short amount of time, and I want to have those discussions with you. Math, science, yeah, especially math, I might send them over. But having said that, it depends on who's teaching you. There are so many different factors here. I think I would start with, does your child, are they college, are they aiming towards college, or do they just need to go to a community college? It doesn't need quite such a high level. Not all students have to have scholarships or need to go to a full 4-year university. So it would just depend on your situation, which is why I think a mentoring program is a good idea. So
Great. And do you happen to know or have a resource for a good basic aptitude test for an 8th grader?
yes, again, a really basic one, I would just go to foundationspress.com/careers. And if you go under aptitudes, there's going to be a really simple aptitude test there. And it's just a few pages long, but it's a great place to start.
Okay. And did you have your children work while they were in high school to find out more about their interests or build responsibility?
Yes, absolutely. We own our own business, so one of the first things that they have to do is help around the house and do chores so I can work the business, and then gradually build them into helping us out, taking some of that load off. But one of the other big things is to plug in again to people in our congregation. That was really important. That's where a lot of our kids heard about different skills and things. As far as jobs, we live in a really small town, USA, and it has been difficult to find jobs. We live in a small town and happen to have a major state university close by. So every summer, all the little jobs are taken by the university students, and it's been a trick. Other places in our state don't allow kids under 18 to get a job. So it has been challenging. I think to me, I would rather develop that they have initiative and they're dependable, that they will do a job when asked, they're hardworking, you don't have to follow them around. And those are all skills that I can develop in the kitchen, in the garage, in the lawn. And so those were some of the things that we kind of had to do because of our situation. I wouldn't send them out into the workforce until you've developed some character. I mean, not saying you can't ever send them out, but I would definitely work on character first.
Okay. And final question before we move on to the next segment is, did you have any, did any of your kids think they wanted to go one direction vocationally and then later change their mind? And how did you help them navigate that?
Oh, yes. Yes, a lot of conversations. I think my oldest has been the one that has had that more than any others, mostly because he's had such a difficult time finding a job in his career, and he loves to do so many things, and he's very talented at many things. I think this really plagues those of your kids that have a lot of talents because they are usually more like, well, I could do this and I could do that and I could do this and I could do that. And the other ones that it might plague are the ones that are shy, that are like, I just want to stay home. Maybe that is what God's plan for them. Maybe he really just does want them to stay at home a little longer. There's nothing in the Bible that says kids have to get a job and have a career and go to college at 18. So I think these things, how they're handled, is with a lot of prayer. Take a date night with your husband, which you should do that anyway, and have a lot of discussion, with your spouse if you can. Also discussion with your student, and just spending a ton of time in prayer, because we can only see right here and right now, but the Father can see their entire life, and he can see the past, and he can see all the relationships that go around. And so I think in all situations, but in that one especially, praying about it and asking him for wisdom would be the number one thing that we need to spend our time on.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Anne. And we're going to go ahead and move on into the next segment that we have. We have 3 mentor spotlights coming up. And then after those mentor spotlights, we'll have some more time for Q&A. So if your question didn't get answered, because we ran out of time for that, just hang tight and we'll try to get that in as we finish up tonight. So next, I want to introduce you to one of our mentors. Both Hal Melanie and Ann Elliott had referred to the mentoring program. And if you don't know what that is, we have at HEAV a high school mentoring program where we will partner you with one of our mentors in a group of up to 5 other people. And we will walk through over a 4-month period the topics that most come up for parents who are entering the high school years or going through the high school years with their students. So Tonight, though, we're just going to give you a little spotlight of 3 topics. And the first topic we're going to talk about is community involvement. And we have Adrienne Brown, who is going to be speaking with us about that. So Adrienne, you can go ahead and unmute yourself there.
Okay, I'm there. Hi.
Great. All right. And Adrienne, go ahead and tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then go ahead and talk to us about community involvement.
Okay, hi. My name is Adrienne Brown, and my husband and I have 8 kids, 4 biological and 4 that we have adopted. And we have homeschooled all of them over a span of 26 years. So far, we have graduated 5 high school students, and they all got into our goal for one of our major goals was to make sure that they can get into any college that they so desired, because we didn't want to mess our kids up. So we wanted to equip them just in case they wanted to go to college, and they all did. So all 5 got into good, solid colleges. And so far, we have 3 college graduates, and we have one who is still working on his degree. And then we have one that just started this year. So we helped our kids to get into those colleges with 2 things. First, good academics tailored to what it was they wanted to do. We tried our best to provide that academically. And secondly, we made sure we knew that they were going to have much community involvement. You see, we knew if they were going to get into those colleges that they dreamt about, they needed to be well-rounded students, and they needed to be able to function in many different settings. We understood that, getting them involved into the different community opportunities and various activities would provide them with the necessary skills that they needed to become well-rounded citizens, and it would give them the social skills that they would need as adults when they left our home. So that's why community involvement was one of our top tools that we use to get those skills for our children. And so, for instance, I want to talk about the opportunity that two of my children had to go and work, because we live in Virginia and we live close to Montpelier. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but Montpelier is very close to us, and they are very big in doing archaeological digs. So that was a great, and it's on a volunteer. Some of the opportunities are on a volunteer basis, and we had the privilege of getting our kids involved in that. Not only did that opportunity open them up to people in our neighborhood who were not only professional archaeologists, but also they were people who worked in various colleges. So that gave them the opportunity to deal with college professors before they even left home, which was awesome. That was one of our goals also. So I just wanted to bring that up first. But if your goal is to get your children into college, and you want to get them involved in things in your community, and if you are a person who is a part of a church, the very first thing I would tell you is to get them involved in your church. That's where we always started. We kept our children involved in church ministry. And the reason why I'm saying church is because, most everyone's church, you have outreaches, right? And you have places where you can go and volunteer there's all sorts of opportunities where your child can serve in the church and outside, go with the church to serve the surrounding communities. So we always started there first. And we did that with three important reasons, because first of all, what was most important to us is that it taught our children to that they were important members of our church. You know, I know there's some churches where they don't involve the children, but if you want your kids to feel like they are a part of something, get them started in their own church. It taught them, like I said, that they were important members of the church, and they learned that doing their part helped the church to grow and function properly as we reached out to the community. And also, it gave them a sense of accomplishment when they were giving to others. Now, remember, like I said, churches are filled with many opportunities for your young person to serve and to to serve others and have community involvement. One thing I could suggest is, like, for instance, running the audio visual equipment. That is so very important in our church today, because most churches are online, and from that involvement, when it's done right, it is posted online, and you can have hundreds and thousands of people watching that service. And so your child is being helpful when they help to work that system. Also, I mentioned earlier, they did many community outreaches to where we went out and to different festivals or events, and we had a table. The church was set up, and we had a table set up. Our church had a table set up at that event, and we would hand out, just literature talking about the gospel, and leading them to talking about our church, and just helping people to understand that we were a place where they can come and get to know who God was. So, and our kids were helpful in that. Also, remember, another way they reached out to the community is by helping with our yearly VBS. VBS was something that was put out there in the community, and it brought other kids who wouldn't usually come to the church to our doors or to wherever we were set up. So and our kids always had a part in that, by leading the music, helping with the games, helping to serve the food. That's involvement. It seems easy and simple, but these are tremendously helpful in training your kids how to deal with other people when it comes to community involvement. And it's starting them on a little tiny scale, but it's very powerful. Also, when people come through the church doors, your children can help to be on the greeting team or on the parking team. There's so many places and opportunities right in your church that you can get your young people involved in. Also, don't forget about our kids have served on the praise team, in the band, and also church sports camps. We have been members of other churches where they provided a sports camp that catered to the youth in the community. And my older ones were able to be like a team leader in that. That's community involvement right there. So also, now I'm gonna move you out of the church and take you into serving your local community through other entities, such as your neighborhood cleanup. I know you guys have heard of that. That's a way to get your child involved in serving your community and helping to keep your community clean and helping to keep your community just someplace that's a safe and wonderful place to live in. I found out that during the time that we served, that most neighborhood cleanup organizations were manned by older people, by elderly people. So in our community, our children became like local heroes with these groups because they love to have that young blood come and to help them because you don't have very many young people doing it. So when the homeschoolers come to serve and get involved in that particular organization, your kids will become local heroes. That's not what we were shooting for, but I love seeing them help out, especially helping the elderly people that were trying their best to run this neighborhood cleanup. And they just, how it is. It's just older people need to be able to jump a ditch or reach somewhere where they couldn't, they just don't have the strength to do it. So they have these younger ones helping them. So my kids were able to do community involvement like that. We had them involved in that for a while. And guess what? Because they were involved in that, helping the old elderly in our neighborhood, they showered them with gifts of food. They just loved the kids for doing that. Anyway, another place that we took our teens is we had them go to other organizations such as your local pregnancy center. Now don't get I'm nervous about that one. What I mean by that is your local pregnancy centers usually have like fundraising dinners that they put on in the neighborhood to attract the people, the businesses and local churches and every someone who can donators to come and donate. So, and they often need people to help serve and wait tables. So if you would like to have your kids get that type of experience on learning how to, just to communicate with the people in their neighborhood, learning how to serve others, learning how to have conversations with older people, that's a perfect place to go and help. You just have to contact your local pregnancy center and ask them if they need volunteers to help them with their fundraising events. And it's just a nice opportunity to be a part of. So that's another place for you to go. And another place where you can get community involvement for your children, is your local 4-H organization. Now, 4-H is one of America's largest youth developmental program. And in this program, they empower millions of young people with skills to lead that will help them throughout their entire life. Ways to help in your community through the 4-H program is through what they offer is like a handicapped program. My kids were able, in where we live in our area, it's kind of sort of rural, and they offer a lot of horseback riding camp for the handicapped. So our children were able to go and to assist the handicapped kids, to be able to ride the horses, to enjoy the same opportunities that a child who is not handicapped were able to do. That particular program was very fulfilling for my children. They got to see that not everyone, has the same mobilities that they had, and it helped them to develop compassion and sympathy for just for the people who do not have those that ability. Anyway, that is a place where you can go to get your kids to find a way to serve their community. All of these things that I've mentioned so far are so very important, and we need them, and it helps the community. These are things that are happening in your community at all times. Also, another place where you can go and get have your kids to be involved in the community is your local theater groups. the word of caution about that is that you want to make sure that you are somewhere around to make sure you're monitoring what's happening there. But the reason, what I mean by having your children to volunteer, to serve, because a lot of those groups they won't be able to function if they don't have people volunteering to help run things in the background. Like my sons always had an opportunity to run like the lighting for the play that was put on, or the sound system for the play that was put on. And I, as the mother, I stayed there and I was the den mother. So that was just community involvement. We did it as a family. These are things it was so much fun. You know, my older kids helped to run the background, and I had two younger ones who actually were in the play. So this is the whole family doing community involvement. That's one other place. And then let's see, another opportunity that I want to tell you. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and cut in because we kind of got over time here.
Oh, we did. I didn't realize that.
It's so easy. It's so easy. But I want to make sure that we're able to get the other information in too.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much for what you did share. I love that you shared not only what, like, so much that you can do in your church, but then how you start going into the community too.
Mm-hmm.
That was great. Keep your comments handy, because at the end we are going to have some time for Q&A, and I'm sure that we'll have an opportunity for you to like just throw a couple more items out there as people ask questions.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, so next up let me just there we go. Next up, we're going to have Jill Shelton. She is another one of our high school mentors as we get started with our mentoring program this season. And that program starts next week. So I'm going to give you more information about it at the end of this. But right now, Jill is going to talk with you about finding some resources if you have special needs out of the box learners. So go ahead, Jill.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. So my husband and I have 5 children, 4 that were adopted, and 4 that have special needs. So they were adopted as special needs kids. So we have in our family some autism, some ADHD, some anxiety at different levels. We have some giftedness and some dyslexia, some low cognitive. So we kind of, between 5 kids, we have a bunch of different diagnoses. So as you know, special needs parenting can be it can be difficult at times. Sometimes we lose family and friends. Sometimes we are at our wits' end and are in the trenches. So I just like to encourage you to first find community, which has been a topic tonight. But community is very important. Find people that you can invest in and that will invest in you and your children. And so some of the advice that has been given to me over the years that I'd like to talk about, or that I've learned, is to be a mom or dad first and then a teacher second. So again, that goes to the spiritual part of it, and then really digging into that relational part of it as well. Tweak your curriculum if it's not to meet the child's individual needs. So don't try to fit your child into a curriculum. Is probably one of the best things that I got that. And if it's not working, throw it out and try something new. If it's not working, just scrap it. I would highly suggest going to the HEAVE convention. And you can get you can go to the workshops. You can listen. If you can't go, maybe borrow or buy the MP3s and whatnot that they have to listen to some of the speakers. And they also have a special needs conference that they had last year, and that was invaluable. I loved going there. I met Judith Mundane there, and she has mentioned both on the HEAVE website, the Homeschool Legal Defense website. She has a preparation guide that I'll talk about in just a second. And so I am just so thankful that I got to meet her so I could learn a little bit more about that. Gut health is helps tremendously. And if you need to go slower in a subject, go slower. I've taken 18 months, 2 years sometimes, especially when my kids hit algebra. I've graduated 4 kids. And so it was really helpful to be able to stretch that out. So feel free to do that. Smaller chunks with brain breaks with lots of movement is helpful. Be consistent with your time. Routines for our special needs kids are crucial, as you know. One of my kids loved doing math under the table. One of my kids learned how to count with us sliding her across the table back and forth. So we would do things like that because she was very sensory seeking. So let's see, what are some things that we can do? Heave has multiple articles on their site. So I would definitely go and look around, go to the special needs link on their site and look around, read those articles. There are evaluators and testers. And so the first thing that I would say is probably when you have that parent gut feeling that something might not be exactly hitting, or maybe your child's already been diagnosed, go and look at those evaluators. And then that way you can, if you're testing, you can kind of pinpoint a little bit better where you might need to step in and say, okay, maybe they're great at math, but they're not great at writing, or maybe there's a glitch. And so then you can go and kind of hone in on some of those skills. If they do have some glitches, I do recommend Diane Craft, which is also on some of the sites that I mentioned, Heave and Homeschool Legal Defense. She helped me immensely with my child that was dyslexic, who she is 20 and she will live at home for the rest of her life. She has a service dog, but she can read like nobody's business, and she loves reading classical books now, whereas she could not read at 13. And so she has come a long way, which is such a blessing for her to see her just thrive in this homeschool environment. High school was a point of we kind of ditched everything and we just worked on some basic skills, some social skills, life skills, and then we got into the academics part of it. And she has graduated, and she'll be 21 this year. And she got hired on as a front desk clerk and a seamstress at a university. And so she worked that. She's worked that for 18 months now. And then they just offered her a apprenticeship to be a seamstress. And so she is going to start learning to, well, I've been teaching her at home to kind of help out, but she's learning to sew. And then once she does that for about a year, they're going to hire her on. So then she'll be a state employee. So I am just so excited because, when they enter high school and you're just like, I have no idea what this child's going to do. But God, he gets you through it. He takes you through it. And so do not stress out like I did with her. So Seton homeschool testing, SETON, homeschool testing, you do not have to have a degree to test your child. So if I remember testing my one son and found out he had no clue where a comma went. He just put it everywhere. And so just something, okay, that's what we're going to work on this summer is commas and comma placement. And so I do like testing when you start to get into upper junior high, upper middle school into high school, so that you can kind of find out where some of their strengths and weaknesses are, so that you can fine tune that a little bit. Bob Jones University has testing. You do have to have you can either hire somebody to do it for you, which is maybe somebody in your co-op group or the community, or if you have a bachelor's degree or higher, you can get certified to test there. And they have the online ones if maybe your student is better at that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about a student education plan, SEP, if I have a little bit of time here. There's some information on Homeschool Legal Defense site, and there's also information on Heave. Judith has this book. Well, it's not really a book, it's a pamphlet. And it kind of goes through everything that you might need to know. It's recommended that you do it, but if you're not comfortable, if you're not ready to do something like that, it's still a great resource to have so that you can look at it and say, oh, this is where I need to, this is kind of where I can fine tune some things. I would suggest, like Anne said, that finding the strengths, your weakness or their weaknesses, their interests, their talents, their giftings, and go from there. Again, I'll talk a little bit about my daughter. She is we call her the animal whisperer. She can train her chickens to do anything that she wants them to do. Dogs, it doesn't matter. Cats, she can do it all. And so we really thought that she would go into that line of work. But there was no social aspect to that, and she's very introverted. She has autism, and she wasn't very confident. And so when this seamstress, which at the beginning wasn't a seamstress job, came open, she is around college students, and that can be bad or good. But her boss is just, my husband and I met at this college 30 years ago, and he was a seamstress at that time, and now he runs the place. And so we knew him and we felt comfortable. And it's good interaction for her. It's peer interaction, even though they might not intellectually be the same. It is peer interaction, and they can model without knowing that they're modeling for her. So it's been a great fit. So you can do some of that school to work. You can maybe train them at home, maybe practice with your family, serving dinner, and then they could go work. You could go talk to the manager or the hiring official, and they can work in the restaurant business, things like that. TEAV.org/special-needs is one that I would definitely go to. Diane Craft, and that's with 2 N's. That's one that I would definitely go to. Rights Law, WRIGHTS law.com is where you can go and find out what your rights are to homeschool. It is such a joy to be able to homeschool my children and my special needs children. It is not always a perfect day, and that's okay, because it's not going to be perfect if they're neurotypical or not. It's just a lot of fun to be able to pour into these children that God has gifted me with, and that I get to see maybe the smallest things that are just so huge of a blessing because they've worked so hard to get there. And I would definitely encourage you to find community, find mentors, maybe join a co-op. We love our co-op. And so we actually drive 45 minutes to our co-op instead of to the 20-minute one, because we love them so much, and they embrace all children of all needs. And it's just so important. And the community and my 9-year-old, so I have from 9 to 23, my 23-year-old's in grad school, and she's also works as an ABA therapist, which she works with autism kids and autistic kids. And then my 9-year-old who has she's deaf, and she has severe anxiety. And so the first semester we were at co-op, she hid behind my leg the whole semester. 3 years later, now she is like running down the halls. Well, not really running, but going down the halls with her girlfriends and bringing the blankets so all the girls can sit at the park afterwards to have lunch together. And it's just such growth that she probably would not have had just her and I in the home. And so I do encourage community greatly. I think I might be running out of time, so I just want to kind of recap a little bit. Is find your tribe, be flexible in your learning, do short and small chunks of learning, and with lots of movement. Find evaluators in your region, because it's probably, if you're in Virginia like I am, I'm in Southwest Virginia, then for my kids that have some special needs that are not on grade, I don't want them taking the test to turn in. So I do evaluations, and I have an evaluator for my kids, because they make progress, but it's going to look different for my kids than it is. Quality over quantity. And definitely, if you get a chance, go to the Heave Convention, because it is just, you get refreshed and you learn a lot, and you meet new people. And so that's fun. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to mention this. In the next big city down about an hour away, my girlfriend, Shawana, she put on a winter wonderland Christmas party, and it was special needs people only. So it was literally kids to adults with special needs, and the families brought them, and it was, I mean, I cried. It was the best thing ever. So if you have any creativity in you at all, or if God's calling you to do something like that, I would love to put you in touch with her so that you might be able to do it in your community, because it was just beautiful to see 100 special needs kids getting together. And there was no, and I remember my daughter could not hear when we were being served food. And I said, I'm so sorry, she's deaf. And the lady looked at me and said, you don't, there's no apologies here. You don't need to apologize for your kid here. And I just was like, because it was just such a safe zone. And so, so community is really important. But I think that's all I have. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Jill. That was really good information. And as I said a few minutes ago, we will definitely have an opportunity to ask a few questions at the end. My last speaker mentor spotlight is going to be from Susan McCord, and she's going to be talking about homeschooling through major life events. So, Susan, welcome, and let's go ahead and unmute yourself, and we can get started with you. And great, I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, yes, I'm so glad to be here tonight. And so I just decided that I'm going to talk to you guys as friends tonight, because like there's this certain camaraderie that's homeschoolers, I think. It's interesting. It's like you can go to the park or you can go to the store during a school day, and you can see another parent there with their children, and you think, oh yeah, I know what you're about, or you kind of, your eyes meet, and kind of like already know something about each other. And in the 90s, it was a lot easier. We could just be like, oh, that's the lady in the denim jumper, So anyway, so tonight we're going to chat about homeschooling through major life events, especially during high school. I have a little bit of experience with that. So I'm Susan, and I have 3 children, but one of which was diagnosed with a life-threatening heart condition at a very young age. So 14 and a half years of our life was spent with her being diagnosed. But also, like, we've dealt with, having hospitalizations, not just for her, but for others. Sorry, I have something in my eye all of a sudden. And also we've, moved to another region of the country where we had no extended family or friends. I've been healthcare advocate to extended family members as well. So, there were definitely, like, especially 3 different years that we felt like a lot of those things were happening all at once. So, and we all kind of have trials that we endure in life. And I think there are opportunities to build character, but there are also opportunities and a means to help others who go through those same kinds of trials. I've also learned to be, I say, the practitioner of the pivot. So, I mean, kind of changing course when life goes off course, or out of what you thought your course was. And I think at some point, all of us do have some kind of major life events. We welcome children into our families, or loved ones pass away, job changes, different things. And so we're just going to kind of explore some ways to move through those life events and talk about how I've gotten encouraged through moving through those life events to persevere successfully. And so, like, a lot of these events don't usually happen in the usual way. Some of them do. Like, we know if we're expecting a child or we're adopting a child. We sometimes know if we're moving house. We know if sometimes there's a planned surgery or hospitalization. But we don't always know if there's
coming up a death of a loved one, or if we're going to be called to care for a sick or elderly extended family member. Sometimes there's job loss. So there's all sorts of things that can come up, and some of them come up in like a usual and expected way, and others not so usual and expected. So tonight I want to talk to you about 3 different ways that we can manage these life events and homeschool while kind of maintaining some semblance of normalcy. And that is, number 1, sometimes you just need to take a break. Number 2, it would be important to learn how to accept help. And I've learned that for sure, but also in that, not just accepting help, but also learning how to delegate and where you should ask for help. Number 3, just kind of figuring out what's important, what you can let go of, what can't be let go of, because not everything is going to get done. So the number 1 area that, taking a break. So if you have like a planned event, that you have a child coming into your family, that you're moving house. I mean, could be just down the street, could be out of state, could be to another part of the world. You can just take a break. If there's a major surgery or hospitalization that's planned. So yeah, it's important to know, okay, if I have a planned event, maybe there's a way that I can plan that break as well. And then there's unexpected events that can sometimes just put part of our homeschooling on hold, like we can persevere with parts of it, but the other parts we just say, okay, maybe we can just put parts of this on hold. So the sudden illness, the job loss, the death of a loved one. And one of the biggest benefits to homeschooling is that we can be flexible during these major life events. Let's see. So during those life events, it's important to think about, okay, these things that I can take a break on, maybe there's opportunity for my child to learn in other ways. So you can learn for lessons and look for lessons in everyday life. Like, okay, well, maybe mom's not available, dad's not available to cook a meal. So tonight I'm going to need you to cook that meal. And, maybe mom or dad's not available to be home and clean house, wash the car, all these certain things, mow the lawn, and so those are opportunities for those children to, step up and do some certain things that they are needed in, and they need to know that they're needed. So also, if like, say you are in a situation with one of your children, like I had a child who was hospitalized, that child can minister to others who are in the same boat. So my daughter was hospitalized in 2014 for 2 weeks. And she reached out to a baby she didn't even know, but I told her, oh, I met these parents, their baby's here. She's on the same floor as you. She's had the same kind of surgery. And so she made hair bows. She made hair bows for that child. So I thought that was so sweet. And then, afterwards, we had to stay in that same area so that she could go to frequent doctor's appointments afterwards. So she made baked goods for her healthcare team. And they just loved that. They thought that was so endearing. Like that, they never get that from really any of their patients. So, yeah. So then the second thing I want to talk about is learning how to accept help and also how to delegate and determine, okay, just where do I need help? So help can come in like all different ways, all different people, all different options. And so you kind of need to be open to those. So accept help, even if you know it normally, like in areas that you normally wouldn't. It's kind of like, here you have this balloon that's blown up and it's being squeezed from one end. That other side is getting squeezed out and getting stretched out. And if that's an area that you just can't cover with your family, then accept the help. So an example is my husband's grandmother did laundry for us during one of my daughter's hospitalizations. One of my friends, God bless her, she said, can I go do something for you? Is there any errands that you need to do that you can't get out of the house for? And I was like, well, I have like 50 books to return to the library. So, and as a homeschooling parent, there's always books that you need to return. So just accept help in different areas that you might not normally. And then delegate. So when you are thinking about help, think about your faith community, think about your older children, even younger children, extended family members. And it's not always easy when you're in it to think about the things that you need help with. But if you think about the skills and abilities those people already naturally have, then it's easier for you to say, oh yeah, you know what? I really enjoy your whatever they do. Say, could you do that for me? Maybe it's rolling the trash can out because they love to come to that area of town where you live. I know that you like to come over here. So can you roll our trash can out at night since we're not going to be at home? And it gives them an opportunity to serve and express their concern and use the gifts and abilities that they naturally have. So the third topic is determining what's important, and not everything is going to get done. So we need to set priorities. What's easiest? What's the easiest thing that you can do? If you can't find out what the easiest thing is, just figure out what you're available for. And I see that we're running out of time. So do I need to stop?
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, we kind of got off track earlier, and it's just kind of shuffled everybody down a little bit. So it's not anything that you or anybody else has done. But Susan, I do want to thank you for the things that you were sharing. Those were absolutely wonderful tips about how to keep going through homeschooling in the high school years when things come up, and especially the just keeping things in balance by figuring out what to give up for the time, how to ask for help, and because I think that's a hard one for a lot of people, and then just delegating what you can. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Just want to mention real quick too that HEAD has an article on their website. It's by Vicki Bentley, and it's called When Life Broadsides Your Homeschool. So if you're looking for some additional tips that maybe I didn't get to tonight, it was a really excellent article, and I really enjoyed reading that.
Yes, thank you so much for putting that resource out there, for bringing that up. Okay, guys, we are going to move into just a quick, I want to say 5 minutes of Q&A is about all we have for any of our speakers tonight. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it into the comment box, and I will spotlight the different people that we've had speaking, and you can ask your question, and I will make sure that it gets pulled up. We did have one from before, and that was, I think that was directed to maybe Ann Elliott. She said, what do you recommend for a child who does not have any idea what they want to do when they graduate?
I would say if they don't have any idea what they want to do when they graduate, it's probably because they haven't had enough life experience to know what all the options are. I think it's a little bit like asking our kids to write a report on something, and they're like, I don't even know what to say. I don't even like to write. Sometimes I think about how life is a little bit like a sponge, like a sponge you're going to use to clean the bathroom, and between uses, it's all dry and crusty, and you have to put a lot of water into it in order to squeeze water out. And I think sometimes with our lives, we don't have anything to give yet because we need still time to learn what all of our options are, and time to learn just more information. It could just be more skills needed. It could be more, just learning how we tick. And so I say give them more time. Don't rush them. Don't have to be like every other American. You can be different, and you can be what the Father made you to be. And so just take your time and really pray about it, and invest time into your child to help them like fill their sponge, I guess that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Ready to take the next question, whichever one comes up next. But in the meantime, I just want to mention one more time to go ahead and sign up to register to win the homeschool planner. That'll be up until sometime tomorrow, and then we will notify you if you're the winner. But don't wait too long to do that. And let's see. All of the resources, or at least most of the resources that were discussed tonight, have been entered into the comments. So you can definitely go back through, scroll those comments and see those resources too. All right. Do we have any other questions out there before I move on? I know there's a little bit of a lag between where I'm at and it coming through Facebook, so I just want to give it a minute. Okay, Maggie, yes, it's going to be available on the HEAV Facebook page as a recording that you can go back and watch again. All right, and Sherry just posted that link again to register to win the homeschool planner. All right, I just want to remind you guys that as all of my mentors mentioned, the HEAV website does have a high school page for resources and links related to high school. They also have resources for specific topics, like Jill mentioned, for special needs. That would be one that spans across the ages, not just high school. So there are resources there. And I want to thank Helen Melanie Young, and I want to thank Ann Elliott for for coming on to our live stream tonight and sharing all of the information and experience that they've had over the years. The information that they're giving to us is just invaluable. And we appreciate you guys coming on and partnering with HEAV to share this information. And I especially want to give a hand up for Jill, Adrian, and Susan. These are 3 of our high school mentoring team, and they are just excited to get started with the high school mentoring program next week to get paired up with you guys if you decide to become a part of our high school mentoring program. So while you are at the HEAV website checking out resources, if you go to the high school resources page, you'll find information about our high school mentoring program and how you can sign up. And I just want to let you know that if you have looked at it in the past and the only thing holding you back was that maybe it was a little bit outside of your budget, we have been generously gifted from the Bella Education Grant Fund. We've been generously gifted a grant that has allowed us to lower the cost. So right now, the fee for joining the program, which will give you bi-weekly live streams similar to this, but on a private server, with some of the speakers that we had tonight. Helen Melanie will be part of our speaking lineup, and Elliot will be part of our speaking lineup, but we'll have other speakers as well, like Lanissa James, Jonathan Brush, Kathy Cool, and many others. And we'll be covering the high school topics like relationship building, preparing for high school and making a 4-year plan, how to choose subjects, how to do a GPA, how to do a transcript, how to do testing, all of those kind of things and so much more is going to be covered in our high school mentoring program. As I mentioned before, you'll be paired up with one of our mentors. 3 of them spoke with us tonight, but we right now have a total of 8 and are still getting more people who are interested in partnering with you. So if you would go to the website, click on the link for high school resources and check out all of that we have to offer. And that gets started, like I said, next week on Tuesday. So you'll want to register as soon as possible so that I can get you paired up with the appropriate mentor for you. All right, without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and say thank you one more time to all of our fabulous speakers and wish you all a good night. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's about to. Are we done?
We're done.
So we can go. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Close.